What's up, and welcome back to Opposites Attract Podcast. This is Sonia Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez.
What's up, everybody? How is your day?
How is your week?
How is your life?
Going.
Woo!
Every time?
Yeah, every time.
Every time?
It's because, yes, I have to make sure my energy's on point. That gets me pumped up.
Oh, my God.
I like to scream. You know that.
I know. I do know. Babe, you got to freaking tell me.
I'm going to tell you. I have to warn you when I'm going to talk dirty to you.
We did not talk about that before we started the podcast.
No, because I'm very spontaneous. You know that, man.
Yeah, I know. And you know this?
Yes, man. So what's up, everybody?
Yeah. Another week. Man, it's been awesome.
Yes, the kids have been on spring break.
Yeah.
It's been a busy spring break, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, for me, it's been so busy.
Yeah, we didn't get no break.
Right.
It's not spring break for us.
I know.
It's spring break for them, and they're enjoying it. You know what, though?
My babies.
One thing that I have been kind of happy about is, like, I've been seeing them doing more.
The one thing.
What?
He's been happy about. No.
Well, not one thing, but no, I'm happy about a lot of things. But one thing that I've noticed during spring break is that the kids are doing more around the house. You know, like I get home from work or something, like they're mopping some shit up, or I'm like, fuck yeah, like get after it. You
know what's so crazy? Being a parent, it's fucking nuts. Because, and I just cussed. I'm so sorry. Because it's like one day, right? As a parent, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. My kid's a freaking jerk.
One day, that's fucking every day.
My kid lied to me. No, it's not. My kid this, my kid that. And then the next day, they're all happy-go-lucky, singing in the kitchen, doing dishes, and singing along with what's her name? With Alexa.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, what the hell? And so it's like, our therapist is like, what the fuck? Right? Like, you guys are like up and down, up and down. Yeah. But I think it's just part of fucking parenting. It just is. It's part of being a parent, going through the ups and downs with them and the highs and the lows with them.
Well, anybody that's listened to this podcast for any period of time knows that's how it goes. I mean, there'll be some weeks we come on the show and it's like, dude, we got this parenting thing locked down. If you guys want to know the right way to parent, come listen to us. And then the very next week, it's like, all right, we're fucking up somewhere. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing. That's what, I love about our podcast. And we talk about, at the end, it's like, we get better together.
Right.
Because that's what it's about. It's us sharing all the shit that we messed up, all the failures, which I don't like to really call them failures, because
learning opportunities.
We learn exactly from what it is that we do, and it's like always checking in with yourself and checking in with the kids and just continuing to grow. And I think that that's what life is about. It's just learning, continuing to dive in with both feet, even when you're unsure. Because regardless if you fall, you're going to learn from that fall.
Right.
And parenting, I'm sure those of you that are watching this, understand where we're coming from, with the highs and the lows, and continuing to grow, and I think that's the most important thing, is just like never giving up on your kids, never giving up on yourself, and learning from your mistakes. And I think that we have gotten really good at learning from our mistakes. And I think that's the reason why we are, where we are. Not saying that it's perfect by any means, because we still go through a lot of crap with parenting, with marriage, with, everything. I think the one thing that we have yet screwed up on is our finances. But I don't know if I can say that 100% because you bought crypto.
I tricked. Well, thanks a lot, babe. Thanks.
But I'm like, I got you. I trust you, babe. I got you.
That's not true, because we bought that Jag. That was a fucking mistake. I tricked you.
That was your mistake.
I tricked you into getting that Jag.
I'm not claiming that, buddy. That was all you.
Hey, you signed the paperwork.
Because you convinced me. I allowed you to convince me.
That was a mistake. Now looking back at it now, dude, I still wouldn't buy a Jag right now.
Let me tell you, no, they're beautiful. They are sexy. Like
even the new ones look nice.
I felt sexy in that car. Like it was just beautiful. But, again, this isn't we're not getting into our finances on this show, but man, I screwed up, refinancing a home and paying off a car. We can get into that another time. But do not pull money, equity out of your home to pay a vehicle off.
Yeah.
Never do that.
Yeah, you're taking money out of an asset to pay a liability.
Yeah, but anyways, regarding parenting,
one thing that you just mentioned, like that we've learned from our mistakes, that reminded me of a video that we were just watching, that had Joe Rogan and Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, if you guys don't know, he's like the biggest YouTuber on the planet. He's kind of figured out the YouTube algorithm, and he can make every single one of his videos go viral. All the kids know about him, the adults maybe not so much.
Really,
but. Yeah. And, but what he was talking about when he was talking to Joe Rogan, when he was coming up, he had like his mastermind group of like 4 other YouTubers back then when YouTube really wasn't a big thing. And he was saying that he would be making all these mistakes and all these other guys were making their own mistakes. But because they were masterminding together, they would share their mistakes with each other and they didn't have to make all the same mistakes, for themselves. So when they took off, that's why he was saying, like, when they all reached like 1 million subscribers, they all did it at about the same time. Right. Because they were all learning the same shit at the same time.
That's right.
And that's something that we've done with our relationship. Like we haven't just learned from our mistakes, but we've also paid attention to other people's mistakes growing up, things that we've seen. Yes. And, we try our best to do things differently.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So we are leaving. Oh, I don't know if I should just throw this out. I'm not saying when we're leaving. It doesn't matter. But we are going out of town.
But we're back by the time you guys listen to this.
Oh, that's true.
Right?
And, I think that I never thought about this, but the importance of taking that quality time. Our kids are on spring break, and even though we've been busy for most of the time, we have our daughter Michaela coming in. I'm really excited.
We're gonna go pick her up in a couple hours.
We're gonna pick her up in a couple of hours, and we're all going out to the Petrified Forest. And Joey is so excited about that.
I'm excited that he's excited.
That little boy is just so in tune with nature. Like he loves his stones, right? Like
the stones, the crystals. He got a discovery box from Amazon today of like a set of geodes, and we already cracked one open. But
But he
loves all that nature stuff.
Yes, but you hear this from other parents. Like there's going to be a point in time where they're no longer wanting to go on these trips with you. They're wanting to be with their friends. And I'm like, no. So it's like, take advantage of the time that you have, when they're little and they're wanting to spend this quality time with you. And it's, so going out, we take trips every now and again, but it's like taking advantage of
opportunities.
Exactly.
There was something earlier in the week. I can't remember where we were going or what we were doing, but it was just me and Audrey, and we were going somewhere or coming back from somewhere. And that's what you were saying, like how eventually like kids will end up hating their parents, right?
Yes.
And I was telling her. Well,
that's what other people have told us.
Well, and that's the thing is that a lot of the things that we think weren't going to happen to us end up happening.
Yes.
So it's not like it's any different.
Right.
So expect that the kids are going to hate us in a few years. But I was talking to Audrey when we were going or coming or whatever. But we were in the car, and I was telling her, I was like, they say that when you hit a certain age, that you start like you'll hate your parents, but then you eventually will come back around.
Right.
And she was thinking that I was talking about her being younger and hating us. And she was like, "Oh, I already went through that." And I was like, "No, that's not what I'm talking about." I was like, "It's coming. It's coming up. So you're going to hate us here in the future." But I told her, I was like, "You know what? I just want you to understand that no matter what, we love you." Yes. And whatever the feelings are that you have, like we love you more than anybody. And even if we tell you something that you don't like, something that you may not understand, the only reason that we're doing it is because we love you and we have your best interest in mind.
Yes.
And she was like, I know. But she was also just kind of like,
I'm never gonna hate
you guys.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's hard to imagine.
Yes. And today, I had to remind
Joey,
her,
not so much. He might.
And this is the thing. It's reminding your children that whether they're doing good, whether it's school, or at home, listening, doing what they're supposed to do, regardless, it's like sharing with them and really letting them know that you're a blessing. Like, you are a blessing to me, baby. I am so grateful for you just to be in my life. I woke up this morning and I just went to Audrey's room and I laid with her and I massaged her head and was just hugging her and taking in that moment, just watching her sleep.
Yeah.
But it's letting them know, reminding them of their importance, regardless of where they're at today.
Right.
And letting them know that pinky promise that I did. And then it's something that you should probably do with them as well. Just say, I heard your mom did this pinky promise with you and I also want to. And I mentioned both of us, but I think that you should do it
just so that they understand that
directly.
I'm on the same page.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was just something that came to my heart, and I did a pinky promise with both of them, letting them know that no matter what they do, no matter how bad it is, that I will always love them. There will be consequences. But no matter what, I will always love them. And them knowing that.
And we may be disappointed, but we will always try and help them.
That's
we will always try and figure out how can we solve this issue.
That's right.
And
that forms trust. So if they're going through a difficult time, because we have yet, Audrey's 12, Joey's 10. So we haven't gone through those teenage years yet, right? But when they come, it's like you're at a party, you're drinking, right? And you shouldn't be drinking. But regardless of what you did, I want you to call us. We want to be the ones to pick you up.
Right.
Right?
And just know that you're not going to get in trouble. We just want you to be safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And speaking about the kids, so last night, we had a house full of kids. Me and you went out on a little date, an unexpected date with our friends Blake and Carly. Shout out to Blake and Carly. We went and saw the comedian Brian Callen. We had an awesome time. It was a great show.
So
he was
good.
His openers, everybody was hilarious.
Yes. I loved the girl.
Yeah, she was funny.
She was like just straight up talking about how, because she was a young girl. She was maybe 24?
25,
something
28,
like that.
Something like that. She was in her 20s.
And she's talking about how the boys, today that are her age don't understand her, and that they're like, oh yeah, I want a chill girl. And she's like, but then they meet me and I have this bush,
She's like, that's why she said that's why I like older men, because it's nostalgic to them. She's like, these young kids, or what is it?
They want everything shaved from the front to the back. They want a dolphin. That's what they want.
Yeah, somebody that's gonna laugh at their stupid jokes. That's so funny,
That's smooth as shit. But
oh my god.
Speaking of that, I'm over here feeling my legs.
You know what?
Like, ooh, I forgot to shave.
That's not fair. No. We're like giving away all this girl's jokes. We need to find her name so that we can give it. We'll give it out on the next one because you guys should look.
But
her
that
up.
was so funny.
But so we got to go to the comedy show, and then the kids stayed home, and they had their best friend that we've talked about a bunch of times, and when we got home, they were still up, and they were kind of rowdy. They were a little rowdy yesterday.
They must have been like jumping up and down, rolling down the stairs. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but they were at it.
So at a certain point, I don't know if I know you were tired.
Dude, I was super tired.
You've been getting up early every day.
Yeah, 5:30. I'm in the 5:30 club. What?
So we get home, and like I said, they're getting a little rowdy, and all of a sudden, like one of them jumps on me.
Dude, they start attacking your ass.
And the thing is, I've been telling you lately, like, I'm like, oh shit, like I feel my shoulders are fucking, like I feel like cracking and shit. I was like,
dude, like Rice Krispies.
No, wait.
Crack.
Just snap, crackle, and pop.
Yep, that's you.
No, I was telling you before we went to the comedy show, what was I saying? What was I saying? I was no, I got a pain in the middle of my chest. I
got a pain in my chest and I can't breathe.
I'm fucking, before we leave to the show, I'm Googling fucking pains in my sternum and shit.
My God.
And then when I get home, I get attacked by all three of them.
Yes.
And
you know, me, I see that shit and I'm like, I'm going to the room. Yep. I'm like, it's your time, baby. This is your time.
She's like, I'm going to let you bond. So they just jump on me. Audrey's trying to choke me out. And that's one of the cool things that we've been talking about. Like, if you guys have listened to the show, you know, Audrey, you know, going through her growth period and, you know, the changes that she's going through has kind of separated a little bit from me.
She disconnected a bit. Yes.
And just physically, you know, we were always very close, like with hugs and kisses and cuddling and all that stuff. And as she's gotten bigger, she's kind of toned that back a lot.
Right.
But now recently, I've been getting more hugs.
I love it.
And I've been getting more cuddling.
Makes me feel so good.
But I've also been getting uppercuts.
Beat up.
And fucking getting choked.
Yes.
But it's fun. You know what? I'll take it.
You know what though? Let me just, this is a tip for you men out there, okay? When your baby girl, okay, is turning into a little lady, okay? The way they show affection tends to change. And I noticed this because I noticed it with our son. Okay. And I noticed that she would rough play with him. And I started to see that's the way she's showing
her affection
and that she loves you. And
have you talked to Joey about that?
I noticed I did, but it's reminding him.
We need to talk to him about that.
So this past couple of weeks, I noticed that she's been on you. Like you'll be walking in the kitchen and she jumps on your back like a monkey.
She'll jump on my back or she starts hitting me with uppercuts and hooks and shit.
And I'm like, oh, I start to feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
I'm getting abused, and Sonja's like, oh,
yeah, because I get it, like I understand, and so, you know, men, listen, if your baby girl is swaying, just know that she will come back. I mean, it's going to be different. Okay, be ready to get beat up,
right,
or get roughhoused, or maybe it's just because we have our little girl in jiu-jitsu that she is that way.
Maybe
I don't know.
She's rough no matter what.
Yeah, she is. She's a rough girl. She's like her mommy. So, you know, it's just know that the affection may come back, but in a different manner.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So they came. So yeah, I was like, you know what? This is my chance. You know.
That's right.
And she jumped on me, and then like I tried to grab her and throw her, but she's getting bigger. I can't throw her the way I used to throw her before.
Right.
Joey and his friend, they're both about the same size, and they're still throwable. So
they're still throwable.
So I would pick them up, but I can't throw them as far as I used to. So
right.
But I would pick them up and throw them into the couch, and then they would get up and come chase me down and jump on me again, and I like wrestle them off and throw them again, and we just kind of wrestled for a few minutes. Dude, wrestled to the point where like I was worn out when I was done. I was like, you know, I was like, that's enough. And but
I don't know what time you came into the bedroom.
You were already asleep.
I am such a light sleeper, but I heard you. Like you came in and you're like, oh, I just had a moment. And I already knew what you were talking about.
Well, that wasn't even it. It was, I mean, that was part of it.
Yes.
But really what it was is their best friend. Because that was a cool moment. And, you know, because of the podcast and everything, like after everything had happened, they wanted to watch Star Wars. Their best friend, he loves Star Wars. And our kids haven't watched Star Wars that much. And I asked them, I was like, what do you guys, I think I suggested, I was like, hey, you guys want to watch a Star Wars movie? And I was like, you know all the good movies. I was like, which one's a good one? And he told me one. I was like, all right, let me put it on because now the wrestling's done because I might pass out. So I put it on for them, and the three of them were watching Star Wars. And I came downstairs, and I was just kind of catching my breath and hanging out. And I thought to myself, I was like, that was a cool moment. I'm going to take a note about about what just happened. But it wasn't just our kids. It was our kids and their friend. And when I was writing the note, I was having trouble figuring out how to write that I was wrestling with all of them.
Right.
Because it seemed weird for me to like single him out. Like it was our kids and their friend.
And Evan. Oh, yes.
Yeah. It was our kids and Evan.
Yes.
Or it was, you know, I wrestled with Evan and Audrey and Joey. And it was like, I was just like, it's the three of them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And in that moment, I was just like, oh man.
Yeah.
You know, he's such a great kid.
Okay, so listen.
But yeah.
If those of you that are watching, you may be able to relate if your son or daughter has a best friend who's always over. I mean, we are friends with his mom and dad as well. So we are all connected. Yeah. I mean, they take in Joey as if Joey is theirs as well. You know, it's funny because I'm like, where in the hell is Joey's clothes? Like, he's missing so much clothes. Right. And here I am washing Evan's clothes.
Dude, I've had days because I work from home, right? So I've had days where I'm working and the doorbell rings and they're getting ready to leave for school and Evan is dressed completely in Joey's clothes. Yes. And I'm like, dude. But it's like we can't even get mad at it because I know he's got his clothes upstairs somewhere.
Yes,
you know
what
I mean?
Yeah, I'm washing them. You know, but that's the thing. It's like, you know, it's so beautiful to witness the relationship because growing up, we moved so much that I never had those close relationships. And I know you have, you know, but witnessing that and then, you know, seeing Evan and he is, I shouldn't be throwing names out, but he is like our kid. Like I love him. Yeah. I love him. Like he's a cool kid and, you know,
he's sweet.
We have dinner together and yes. And it's funny because, you know, this morning I woke up and I went and I laid with Audrey and just spent that time with her. And then afterwards, Joey and his friend were laying on the ottoman. They fell asleep in the living room. And I lay next to Joey and I'm rubbing his head and I'm hugging him and cuddling with him and giving him kisses on the back of his neck because he loves that. So if you decide to marry my son when he's older, kiss him on the back of his neck. No. But then, you know, Evan ends up waking up and I see him and I'm like, well, you know, like I want to hug him and cuddle him, but I'm like, I don't know if he would be comfortable with that. Out. But he does not like to feel left out, right? Yeah. Like he'll call us out, so that was, you know, on that, you know,
so it was kind of like yesterday, you know, when we were leaving, to the comedy show.
Yes.
We were saying goodbye to the kids and, you know, whenever we say goodbye, obviously like everybody, whenever we say goodbye, we went and give them a hug and a kiss.
That's a thing with us, by the way. Yeah.
You know, it was like first Joey. I went and give Joey a hug and a kiss.
Yes.
But then like I was going to go give Audrey a hug and a kiss and I see Evan sitting on the chair.
Yes.
So I went over to him and I was like, I don't know if he would want me to give him a kiss. But I was like, all right, I'll see you later, buddy. And I just gave him a hug.
Yeah.
And he hugged me back. And then I went and gave Audrey a hug and a kiss and then we took off.
Yeah.
But
no, that's awesome.
But that's kind of like the thought that when I was having, and not only that, but it's like the three of them, like, you know, like just like you said, like I see him and our kids. It's like it's almost the same. And then while I'm taking the note, like I think to myself that the three of them are upstairs right now on the couch, just hanging out, watching a movie,
having a good time,
and it just made me feel good.
Yeah,
you know,
those are the moments. Like, you know, if you're so busy that you're not picking up on these moments, you're missing out. You know, and I think that you and I have taken a lot of time to really slow down, to be present, to be aware, and to connect to our feelings and our emotions, which is huge for you because you're not an emotional person. This is something that you've had to teach yourself, I believe. Yeah. I believe that we've been each other's teachers when it comes to certain things. And, you know, when raising children, it does take a village to raise a child, right? And there's certain people that I feel are the right individuals to breathe life into my children. Right. Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, with Evan, because he is always here, I am always breathing life into this little boy. Yeah. That's why he says I'm going to be known for the most quotes. And you're going to be known for the most lectures.
Right.
You know, because we treat him as if he is, you know, one of our own. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is so important because they will get different. It's almost like, you know, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? He listened to the rich dad, listened to the poor dad. He got both perspectives, yes, and was able to build on his own on what was good for him. But it's like, you know, having these individuals that you trust to breathe life into your children, to teach them certain lessons. As a child, do you recall, you know, growing up and having those certain individuals in your life?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, growing up, I was telling you, like, well, for one, if you guys have been listening for a while, like I grew up with my dad, kind of, right? So my dad pretty much, like, he had custody of me. But a lot of times, like I was telling you, like I've told you in the past, he worked nights for the majority of my life. I think still to this day.
So how old were you when he was working nights?
This is the thing. I remember him working nights my whole life. There was periods. There was periods where he was working days. Mm-hmm. And now that I think about it, I think the times that he was working days was because I asked him to work days so that I could see him at night.
How old were you when you went to live with your dad?
I was like 2. It was before I could remember. Yeah.
And why were you living with your dad?
So my dad and my mom had gotten into an altercation. Well, with my dad pretty much. Yeah. So that's it got physical. They, and they ended up splitting up. I mean, it happened before, but there was that one time where it was just over the top, and it was you couldn't go back from at that point. So
okay.
And that was something that, like we were talking about, like learning from other people's mistakes. Mm-hmm. That's something that I've learned a lot about, and not making the same mistake myself, because I had to deal with that throughout my entire childhood.
Deal with what?
With abuse, like my dad's abuse of my stepmoms. Like I would hear it, as a kid. I would go to sleep to the sounds of it.
And do you recall like how you felt as a child hearing that?
I don't know. I don't think I was scared. Like it was upsetting.
Was it almost normal? Like, did you think that was normal as a kid? Did you think that was normal?
No, I never thought it was normal. And I never liked it. I mean, obviously nobody likes hearing that kind of stuff, but especially as a kid. But I used to get my ass beat too. But when it was happening to them, to my stepmoms, it wasn't like I wasn't worried that it was going to come at me right then. I mean, it was going to come to me eventually, but not right then. I was just kind of, it was just like, my thought was just kind of like, fuck, this sucks.
To get through it.
Like yeah. I can't, I hope this fucking ends. That was pretty much it, but the weird thing is that I think my dad always knew that it was wrong, because the craziest thing is that he used to tell me, never hit women. I took that shit serious. It's weird because he would do it, but he would tell me not to do it, and I fucking got it. Do you know what I mean? That's fucking crazy.
It is crazy because a lot of kids in that situation become adult men.
Yeah.
And they follow, a lot of times, they follow the path of their parents.
Yeah, and that's what kind of we were talking about before the show. That's how, like, my childhood and the lessons that I learned, one of the lessons that I learned as a kid affected me growing up.
Right.
I mean, that's something, we can kind of get into a little bit about my previous relationship.
Well, wait, let's talk about, because I do recall, not only that, like you growing up in that situation, but there were times where you were going, because you were left alone so much.
Yeah.
I remember you sharing with me that there were nights, a lot of nights, where you put yourself to bed and that you were full of fear. I was scared. You were.
Well, that was for a different reason. That was because I had been, for one, I was alone, being a kid. That's scary no matter what. When you're a little kid, if you're left alone.
When you're saying a kid, are you saying like maybe 12 years
maybe
old?
Maybe 7, 10.
So you were 7.
Maybe 7, 10, I don't know if 7.
In New York.
If I was 7, I may have been with my grandmother. But eventually, like, she would take me back to my house, and then if my dad was working, nobody was there, and it was like, well, he's just gonna go to sleep anyway. And it's like, I wasn't going to fucking sleep. I was fucking scared,
Right.
But then there was a certain point when we went out to a restaurant, and it got robbed at gunpoint, and I was there. So that freaked me out too. And I think I was probably about 10 or something like that when that happened. I don't know exactly. But at that point, the way I would go to sleep was my dad used to throw parties, like really big, kind of like nightclub style parties. And we had all the DJ equipment and all the stuff. And I've mentioned this before for those of you that have been listening for a while. And I had my bedroom, and the room next to my bedroom was where all the DJ equipment was stored. And I would have it hooked up so that I could practice DJing as a kid and mess with the stuff, because that was my thing. I used to love doing that. But when it was nighttime and it was time to go to bed after that whole robbery thing, my thought, like, I would turn on every light in the house and I would blast the DJ music. It would fucking suck to be my neighbor back then. Oh my God. I'm talking about floor to, like, to my head height speakers, blasting them at full blast, because for one, I was scared of the dark. I didn't want to turn the lights off. But then at the same time, my thought was, if somebody comes into this house and I'm going to get murdered, I don't want to hear it coming.
Right.
So I would turn all the lights on and I would blast the music and go to sleep.
See, and I think that with you and I, we have openly talked about things that we've gone through growing up.
Yeah.
You know, because you grew up with a single father.
Yes, but kind of like you were talking about how it takes a village.
Right.
And I was mentioning to you, when my dad wasn't there, a lot of times my grandmother was there, or I was with my grandmother. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's a tough subject.
Yeah. But
she's no longer with us, and she was like a mom to you.
Yeah, she was
amazing. She was a strong woman, a very strong. I loved her.
Every single year.
Very strong woman.
For Mother's Day, I would call my grandmother too. You know, like, I mean, I think a lot of people call their grandmother, but I was calling my grandmother not as my grandmother.
Right.
You know, like, I would call my mom, and I also call my grandmother as my mom.
Because she raised you.
And but what you were mentioning about how it takes a village, and I was telling you that I grew up in New York City, and I grew up in an apartment, a 6-story apartment building with, I don't know, 20 apartments on each floor or whatever. So it's tons of people, tons of families, and all my friends, like, I had friends on the 6th floor. We lived my grandmother was on the 5th floor. We had friends on the 5th floor, on the 3rd floor, 2nd floor. So when we would all, just like here, like, you go pick up your friend, you're going to run into your friend's parents. But we're all crammed into this little space. So you would see them in the elevator. You would see them in the hallways.
Right.
You would go pick them up and go to their house. They would come over to your house. So, like, when you said it would take a village, like, I remember going to my friend Peter's house and seeing his mom. I remember going to Muhammad's house and eating with his dad. Like, I remember going upstairs to my friend, Rock's house and his brother's house and seeing his parents. You know, like, it was like the elders in the building.
Right.
Like, if they caught you doing something, they were going to say something.
Right.
I got busted one time stealing some shit from a pharmacy, and I was so scared.
From a pharmacy.
Well, I don't remember what the hell. It was a Rock Bottom or Dwayne Reed or whatever, for those of you that live in New York. But I was stealing some shit, just being fucking stupid. And I was scared. I didn't want to call my dad. I didn't want to call my grandmother because she was going to rip my fucking ear off. So I decided to call, like, my best friend's mom, my friend Juan. And she came to the store and picked me up. And I don't know if anybody ever found out about it.
Wow.
It was one of those things. Yeah. She's like, I think it was kind of like she knew that I was a good kid and that I fucked up.
Yes.
And she was like, look, it was kind of like, cut the shit. Like, I'm not going to tell anybody. Like, we don't have to tell anybody about this, but don't do it anymore, kind of thing.
Did you take that to heart?
Yeah, that was it. But like you were saying, it takes a village, and It's like we had 10 sets of parents in our building.
Yes.
So that was something that, when I look back at it, it was pretty special growing up.
Yeah. So with you and I, we have, some similarities. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I grew up, my mom and dad were married for 17 years, divorced shortly after. And, my mom was, got pregnant at the age of 13 and had 4 children. And when my dad had left, when they got a divorce, I almost felt as if he divorced us as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember being with my dad that often.
Yeah.
And, I know that there's a story behind the story. And I'm just sharing with you all the story that I can remember, and some of, and what I was told. But coming from, just my mom trying to survive, I remember that she always had something going on, right? Like whether she was working 1 or 2 jobs or going to school, but it was just, there was so much brokenness within her that she went through when it came to, the divorce and just the emptiness that she was feeling, and being that 9-year-old little girl and witnessing that and being there for her. And it was tough, so me growing up with a single mother, you growing up with a single father, and witnessing, my mom trying to fulfill that emptiness, with men.
Yeah.
And knowing that they were not my dad, but me just wanting, that's all I wanted was my dad.
Yeah.
At that time. And, I had a little brother, and just us going through the things that we went through. At a young age, at the age of 9, I realized that we were broke. I realized at that time that for me, when I witnessed what I witnessed, I did not want to get married. I never wanted to fall in love. I never wanted to feel the brokenness that my mom was feeling. I never wanted to be left alone with on my own with children trying to figure things out. And if love equaled her or marriage equaled divorce, I wanted nothing to do with that. And so with me, what I did was I learned so much of what not to do from my mom.
Right.
I focused on my education, and I was not the smartest kid. And I knew that I had to work harder. And I shared this with our children. Like just because you don't learn the way the other kids learn doesn't mean that you're not as smart as them. That just means that you have to work harder.
Or try something different.
Yes. And so, growing up, I was so focused on being successful, and being a successful individual to me at that moment in time, witness as a 9-year-old was, going to school, getting the good grades, going to college, because none of my siblings had went to college. My older sister did, but that wasn't until I got older, and having mentors like you were. Sounded like you were surrounded by individuals who were helping you, to guide you, to raise you. And with me, when I think back, it was my teachers. It was a few of my teachers that I really connected to, that I really respected, that helped me. And when I listen to your stories, it's like you sound like you had some very close relationships growing up, like friendships.
To this day.
And because I was living with a single mother, we moved a lot. So I never really got to grow those relationships until my mom met my stepfather. And that's when my life changed. When my mom met my stepfather, that's when everything changed. That's when the security came into my life. That's when, I was able to build those relationships.
Yeah. So obviously, like we talked about, there's a lot of things that we learn not to do. Kind of like with my dad and my grandmother. I remember being a kid, and one of the things that I saw was the issues of money and borrowing money.
Yes.
As a kid, I saw that. And I was like, ooh, I don't like this. Because it was like with the parties and the equipment. The equipment cost 10 grand. Where did that money come from?
Right.
My grandmother. And it was like, well, eventually you have to pay it back or whatever. And it was just tension because of it. And as a kid, I knew, you know what? I don't want those issues. When it comes to money, I'm not borrowing, I'm not lending. Like I'm not going to be in debt because I used to hear about the credit cards and all that stuff.
Right.
You know, so those are some things that I learned what not to do from their example, I guess, of what they were doing wrong.
Yes.
But what I want you to share, like, something positive that you got that you've still practiced to this day.
From my mom, from my parents.
From your childhood. But first, before we do that, make sure you guys go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. Share it with the people that you know. When you guys go there, you guys can see all of our social media there. You can watch the podcast there. You can listen to it there. And you'll also see the support the show tab at the top if you're on the computer, or if you're on your phone, you hit the menu button and you'll see the support the show tab. When you click on that, it'll take you to our Amazon link. And anything that you purchase through that link doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps out the show. We'll get a couple pennies whenever you buy something, and it'll help us get another microphone or something to make the show better for you guys. Yes. And also, you guys can search Opposites Attract Podcast on Amazon, and you'll see our shirts, T-shirts, pop sockets. We got some cool looking baseball T-shirts. I like the baseball one with the logo on the front. That one's pretty nice. But yeah, if you search the podcast on Amazon, you'll be able to find that. And we also have Trust Inc. When you go there and you click the support the show tab, you'll see our link to Trust Inc. Yes. And Trust Inc. is?
And Trust Inc. is a mobile notary agency and signing agency. So we do a lot of work with title company, escrow, and lender. And so if you are in the process of purchasing a new home, I know that their purchases are on the rise. And if you are looking for a signing agency to help you, you can request Trust Inc. to be your signing agency.
And you can go to Trust Inc. directly by going to trustinkusa.com. Yes. You got your sexy voice on. You're trying to be. Let me see. I gotta get your.
Now, if you would like to buy us a coffee,
all right,
or a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/oppositepod.
Yes. Like we've said, if we ran into you guys and at a bar, at a coffee shop or whatever, we'd love to buy you coffee, buy you a drink, get to know you a little bit. Yes. And if you guys would like to do that for us, you can do it virtually through buymeacoffee.com.
And we will give you a shout out.
We're also affiliates with Pinwheel, which is the best smartphone available for kids. It's a phone that parents can monitor all the apps that get installed onto the phone. They can monitor all the text messages, call logs. It has GPS tracking, so you know where your kids are at and what they're up to. All the apps that are available through the Pinwheel app store that they have on there, they have to be, first of all, approved by the parent. But the apps that are available are picked by therapists, counselors, teachers, concerned parents, just people that have kids' best interest in mind. The apps that are there are going to make them more productive. It'll help them with music. There's Duolingo where they can learn different languages. So it makes the phone a tool, and it's good for the kids. So if you guys want 10% off of a Pinwheel phone
and peace of mind,
you can use promo code OAPTEN all together, all in caps, on pinwheel.com.
Yes.
So now let's get back to that. So
I'm glad you asked me that question, because even though, I was talking about, that I learned a lot of what not to do from my mom. My mom was a hustler. My mom made it freaking happen, man, even though it was just her.
I'll tell you, I got that from my dad too.
Yes. There were times where she was working one or two jobs. She was going to Job Corps. She was studying, to get her, what is it? Her, not when they get a diploma, but their, what is it called?
GED?
Yeah, their GED. Like, she was just always doing something. She was selling Avon. She always was doing something.
Dude, yeah.
My mom, the fire, the burning desire to succeed and not give up, like, that was her. Like, she had dreams. And I remember, just watching her, because she wanted to be a singer, and that was something that she would always be in front of the mirror singing and going to karaoke
singing
bars
into a brush
and doing all of this. Like, my mom is a fighter. She is a survivor.
You get a brush
and that's the song. But my mom is a fighter, and she is a survivor. Let me tell you, because having 4 children at, her first child at the age of 13, she never gave up. She never gave in. She fought.
Yeah.
you know, and so I owe that to her because I have that within me.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. That's awesome. Yeah, I got some of that from my dad too, like the hustles.
I just made myself cry.
I know. Yeah.
No, because she is the shit, man. My mom is, she's amazing. You know, she's amazing. And it's weird because growing up, it doesn't take, it takes you getting wiser.
Right.
To appreciate.
Having experiences of your own.
To appreciate, to see the hard work.
Yeah.
You know, and even, you know, there were times where she was working 2 jobs and she always made sure that we had food in that refrigerator, man. My mom would always, you know, when she can cook dinner. I just remember that.
If you could go back and change your childhood, would you change it?
Heck no, because I wouldn't be the woman I am today.
Right? Like,
you know, that is what everything that I went through, everything that I gone through made me who I am today.
You know, and that's the same thing that I'm thinking right now. I've told you some of the things, like when I look at our kids and I see them, like Joey's 10, Audrey's 12, Michaela's 16.
Yes.
I mean, by the time I was Michaela's age, I had already seen everything that you could probably see, like all the bad shit, a lot of the good shit, you know, but I had seen a lifetime's worth of shit by 16. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like I talk to you and looking at our kids and it's like, they haven't seen a fraction.
Not at all.
They haven't lived a fraction of the shit that we went through.
Maybe Michaela. She's gone through some stuff. She's seen some things. She's very, yeah.
But even still, I wouldn't change it. Like the things that I was explaining about earlier.
Yes.
Like you said, they made me who I am today.
Right. And for our listeners, some of you may be asking, well, why are we sharing this story? And we're going to reveal that because a lot of times our past, our trauma that we have gone through as a child really has to do with how we act or react or respond as adults, you know,
or how we act as adults is
because of what we've gone through.
Yeah.
You know, the distrust, me having a hard time allowing myself to fall in love with a man has to do with my past. It has to do with, you know, daddy issues, abandonment issues. I mean, just all the challenges and obstacles that I went through as a child.
Yeah.
I bring not knowing, right? Not knowing I'm bringing this into the relationships, not knowing that I built a wall so high that I'm not letting anyone break through this wall.
So right now I'm kind of thinking about something like our personalities, like me and you, we're very, who was it that was, you were just talking about this. Like we are very positive people, right?
Yes, one of my good friends.
Who was saying that?
Betty, I'm throwing your ass out there, girl. Betty Para. She's like, your podcast is so positive.
We can't help it. That's how we are.
You know?
But I think that because we are that way is why we could have all
But we're not always.
But, not always. But for the most part, we are. And what I'm saying is that I think that because we are that way is why the experiences that we had growing up turned out to affect us the way that they did. Because for some people, when they live through abuse,
is a way to survive.
No, that's not what I'm saying is a lot of people, when they live through abuse, they abuse. When they do when something happens to them, they perpetuate that. But for us, like we would see the things that weren't necessarily good, but we turned it around. A lot of the things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's because of the positive attitude or what, but I know for sure one of the things, like you were talking about, the abandonment stuff, I think one of the ways that affected me in a positive way was what I wanted from life. It's like I wanted a family. Like not having anybody home, me being left alone and going to sleep with the music blasting and the lights on. And I've said it on here before. Like I remember, like what was it? Hold on. I remember watching that show, Steve Urkel, Family Matters.
Yes.
And they would get like the show was funny and they had their moments, and they would like, that was a show that I always used to like. And I would see the family and something would be happening. They would be having an issue, and then all of a sudden, like the music comes and it's like, well, you know, what was the son's name? It's like Will or whatever. He's like, we're really disappointed in you. And then like they had a family talk. It's like, I want to have fucking family talks. You know, when I grow up, I'm gonna have family talks. You know what I mean? But that's how it kind of affected me, like in a positive way, because I was left alone and I would see it on TV and I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to have that kind of a family.
Wow. Okay. So listen, guys, that was not me. I was like, I don't want any of that shit. I do not want these. I don't want to fall in love. I don't want this white. I was never that little girl who visioned her marriage or having kids.
I'm not saying
any of that, but you wanted the family.
Well, I'm not saying that I envisioned the marriage, but I could
wanted the family.
How fulfilling, like how happy.
Right.
like,
And you wanted that.
Yeah.
Well, to me, having that was not happiness. That equaled divorce. That equaled betrayal, heartbreak, all of that. So we, just, and opposites attract. It's like, what the hell? But listen, there's a higher energy, God, I call, that you can want what you want, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get what you want. And what I mean by that is because underneath that little girl who needed healing, who needed to face some things, right? She needed healing. She needed to be loved. She needed to know that she was worthy and that she mattered. That little girl needed to be healed in order for me to allow myself to fall in love and to give in and to know that it is real. It is possible. And just because you love doesn't mean that you're going to get hurt.
And you may get hurt, but it doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it.
Right.
See,
but this is the thing, like, because of what I witnessed as a little girl, I protected my heart. Every relationship prior to you, they loved me more. I played safe.
Yeah.
I played safe. I was so into, I focused on making sure that everything I did, that I could survive without a man.
Yeah.
I didn't need a man to pay my bills. I didn't need a man to buy a house, to buy a car, any of that. I was going to do that.
And that's something that we struggled with in the beginning of our relationship.
Big time.
Because when our kids were born, like we've always had the thought of doing things differently. Like I talk about the Family Matters family. Uncle Winslow, he was a cop, right? And I think Harriet, damn.
Dude, this dude, I don't remember all their names. I remember Urkel.
Wait. No, Uncle Phil was from Fresh Prince.
Who knows? I don't know, dude. But you watched a lot of TV, obviously.
I did. Saved by the Bell, all that shit. But like even though, he was a cop and damn it. I forgot what the hell
just move forward. You're talking about the show and how it made you feel.
Yeah. Crap.
You lost?
I lost it. It's gone.
Okay. Well, anyways, the reason why we're sharing our past with you, because in order for us to have the relationship that we have today, we had to go back in time. Like we had to heal our inner child. And we had to self-reflect and learn what it is that we needed to let go in order to be free.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen for me until, I mean, I guess with you, it took me a bit to fall in love with you, like wholeheartedly trust you and to allow you to pay our bills. Because you were talking about that it took me a bit to allow you to take care of me.
Yeah.
That's where you were getting to.
What I was going to say, is that like in the show, people had like a regular job, right? Mm-hmm. I think Harriet she was like a house mom. And we've always kind of had that entrepreneur, kind of like you were saying, like bringing it back around, like your mom and my dad. My dad, dude, let me tell you about my dad. My dad worked for the airlines pretty much his whole life, but he was always known as the movie guy. Because he would, back in the day, like forever ago, he would sell like bootleg movies, and he was always hustling. It was always some kind of hustle to try to make some extra money.
Right.
And that obviously has passed down to us, right?
To you.
To me. And well, I'm saying same for you, mom, right?
Yes.
Same for you. Because you're like, we're always thinking about a different way or something. So when we had kids, we also knew that we wanted to do things differently. We didn't want the kids to be in daycare all the time. So we made a conscious decision that I was going to work. You were going to work a business. Like, you were never going to go back to having a regular job.
Right.
Your job was going to be to retire us. My job was going to be to maintain us.
You know how... Did you hear that?
But I'm saying
to retire us.
Well, I'm not saying just your job, because that's our focus. Like, both of us do both things.
Yes.
But like, you don't have to worry about punching a clock. You don't have to worry about a boss. You could just focus on our family and getting us to a different, to try to change things for the future, going forward, like forever.
Yes.
And that's why when we first had kids, that's the last time you worked. Like, you had a regular job while you were pregnant. While you were pregnant.
But when you and I met, I was an entrepreneur. I mean, I was living off of.
You were, but you had jobs before that.
Right.
And then when you were pregnant, you had a regular job where you were, there at kind of there at a certain time, kind of leaving at a certain time. You were able to do kind of what you wanted.
I love it. Yeah.
So almost kind of like a regular job.
Every law firm that I worked with was always like that with me.
But it was like you work for somebody else.
Yes.
But then after you had the kids, you stopped working when you had our daughter, Audrey.
Yes.
And that was it. You never went back to work after that.
Right.
So even though it's been like, we've always had that entrepreneur mindset, but it was also always the kids, because your focus in the beginning was always to be with the kids and to raise the kids. And, I was going to work and be there too. Because we knew that was not something that happens anymore.
Yes. And this is the thing, you guys, we're opening our home to you, right? Like, we're opening what we've gone through with you, because we want you guys to understand that our relationship wasn't always great.
Yeah.
And there were so many obstacles that came our way. When I had my daughter, shortly after, my sister passed away. And we ended up with 3 teenagers, a few years after.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle in itself, because there was so much going on within, there was so much going on within the kids. There was so much. And you and I just had a kid, and now we had 3 teenagers, and there was so much to learn within that about ourselves, and how strong are you to succeed and to move forward, to do the thing that you need to do in order to provide a life, not only for a living, not only for us and our daughter, but also for my nephew, our nephews, and our niece. And we have never been alone. You and I, it's always been something. It's always... Right? Like, it's just been...
Well, I think that's kind of, and we're kind of, going off on a different tangent.
On a tangent over here.
But I think, like, we've talked about it before. I think that's kind of what set the foundation for our relationship. Like, we went through a lot of shit in the beginning.
We did.
Like, it was never just easy street. No. Like, hey, we got married. Let's have a honeymoon and have a good time.
Never.
It was always like, I mean, before we got married, your mom was living with us.
Right.
Right. And after she was still living, or no, I think right
before we had Adriana, she moved out. But then we ended up getting
getting the 3 teenagers. Yes. Our niece and nephews.
Yes.
And
the challenge.
I mean, imagine, like, we're not who we are. We weren't who we are today back then.
Not at all. Oh my God. You were like 20. How old were you?
28, 29. You know, and 28, 29. And I got a incoming 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah. You were younger than that. But yeah.
Something like that.
You were in your 20s.
But I was in my 20s.
Yeah, you were in your 20s.
And I got not a young teenager. It's like already, maybe 16, I think.
Right.
What she was.
12, 14, and 16.
Right. So, like, we're trying to figure out
who we are,
and
our shit, how to be a parent.
But the thing is that
we got 3 more.
We've always had the attitude of no excuses. What do we need to do? How do we get it done? What's the next step? Yep. Like, we've always had that attitude. And that's important. I think that's kind of what has helped us. That's that positive attitude. I don't know. But right. I mean, I don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Say what you want. I don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Because I think it served us pretty well.
Yes.
Right?
But sharing all this with you all, you and I were at a point where I was talking about divorce.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't always rainbows and flowers. Miguel was very temperamental. I was very egotistic, very prideful. I had a certain way I wanted things done. I had no patience. I was very emotional. And when we had a disagreement, I wanted to take care of that disagreement right there and then. And Miguel needed time to process
cool
some things.
No, usually it was to cool off.
Right.
Because I did have a temper.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one time, like, you just telling me, leave me the fuck alone. And I was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
What? And it's like.
Yeah, I remember you were pretty hurt by that.
I mean, it's just. And these are the things that you guys, have, people don't realize.
Yeah.
That it took a lot of self-development. It took a lot of self-help, like looking for answers, reaching out, talking to people that have been in a relationship, that are, really good friends, and asking questions and just learning and knowing that we wanted this to work. Even though there was a point in time where I was talking about, divorce, at that time you had an awakening.
Yeah.
And realized that you were about to lose everything
that I ever wanted.
That you ever wanted.
Yeah.
But it took you to slow down, to think about some things.
I think.
And willing to make the changes that you needed to make in order to save this relationship.
Yeah. I don't know if this is kind of something that helped me wake up. But back then there was so much going on. And I was working a lot because I had to. Like, that's one of the things, is that in that position where we were at, we knew that we were in the, I think subconsciously, I don't know if we ever voiced it, but we were like in the beginning stages, obviously, of our relationship, but of our life. It was like the setup period. And we knew that during those times, you got to work. And I knew that. And I was like, any overtime that I get, I'm taking it. Because I don't know how long they're going to offer it. I don't know how long this is going to last. So at that time, it wasn't like, let's save. I think it was, let's get out of debt. So it was just work as much as you can, do what you have to with the family, stash the money, pay debt off so that we can move to a different position. But it was just such a grind all the fucking time that it was just like I would go to work, come home, play video games, go to sleep. But it wasn't even that. It was like come home. I mean, before I even went, like I would be dropping, I don't know if I dropped our niece off at school, but I remember like I would pick her up every day, you know, so it was just like fucking stop every day. It's like, you know, go to work, come pick them up, come home, more shit to do, play video games, go to sleep, go to work, overtime, work the weekends, nonstop, you know, and it was just, it was easier to kind of disconnect and numb myself through the video games. And, you know.
And you know what? I think that too, like, I know that the next episode is going to be a continuation of what we're talking about because there's a lot of lessons here. There's a lot that we've learned because I can tell you that a lot of my friends have voiced their concerns and lack of intimacy because of their husbands playing games nonstop, not helping around the house, not helping around the kids. And it's taking time to understand why they're doing what they're doing, but also getting them to realize it themselves.
Yeah.
The numbing process and really taking time to self-reflect. And
that could be drinking. It could be a bunch. It doesn't have to be video games.
It could be porn.
Yeah.
You know, that's another thing. I mean, everything stems back to something that happened to us that we don't want to self-reflect.
And it's not like those things are all necessarily in themselves bad. You know, it's not like video games are bad. But it's when you, like, I mean, it's a fucking cliche, but, you know, you overdo it, anything is bad.
Right. There has to be a balance.
You drink too much water, you'll fucking die. That's just what it is. You know, anything too much is bad.
So as you can, this is a lot to take in for a lot of you listeners. You're like, oh my God, they've been through a lot of shit. Yeah. And we haven't even mentioned that we were going through a custody battle with
that's a whole nother story.
Miguel's. And that's that's something else. But I mean, with everything that we're going through with having, you know, be a parent, becoming a parent, learning how to be a spouse, right? Learning how to love and how to take care of a family, how to raise a family. And then, you know, another situation, my sister passes, we get into 3 other children and not knowing how to even put a kid into school and having one that's disabled and having to figure out IEP and Social Security and oh my God, this and this and that, and having to go through a child custody issue and all of this during all of this.
For them and for me.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yeah, because we were fighting juvenile. Yep. Yeah. CPS and just everything that was involved with that
and that's
situation.
And that's what I'm saying is I think that going through all those things in the very beginning and just putting our head down and fucking working, fighting and figuring it out and not making excuses
and not giving up.
What kind of laid that strong foundation for our relationship. But a lot of those things, like the fighting, the not making excuses, I mean, that came from my grandmother. That as a kid, there was no excuses on why the work doesn't get done. If you have to, you sleep in the office overnight and wake up early in the morning and get it done before the people show up. We used to do that. We used to clean offices in Manhattan. And there was times when we had too much work and we would sleep. Like if you think of an office building, you know the carpet that they have,
right?
It's not fucking plush. It's it's like it's the mass produced, just straight up, no padding. It's on the concrete.
Yep.
We would throw jackets down and go to sleep and wake up early in the morning, finish up our work and go home. You know, but it was the no excuses that like have been instilled in me. Like when there's something, a challenge or whatever, I mean, maybe I got to get better at just attacking it right away. But no matter what, we're going to solve it. We're going to figure it out. Like we don't make excuses about things. And you're the same way. Just like when you saw, your mom growing up and what she had to do to, keep things together for you guys.
Right. Yep. She did whatever she, had to do in order to survive, in order for us to, have food on the table, in order for us to have a Christmas, when we had zero money in the bank account. And I remember her going through the sofa cushions. I mean, she looked up ways, you know, in order to provide us, you know, a gift for Christmas. She made it happen.
Yeah.
And you're right. You know, we can either take responsibility or blame others for the life that we live. And you and I made the decision unconsciously to fight and to survive and to make it happen.
And I think doing that over and over time has kind of became part of our identity. Because now it's just normal. When a challenge comes up, when something difficult is happening, it could be something serious. And it's like, oh, fuck, this sucks. But now it's like, now what? Right. Let's get busy. What do we have to do? How can we solve this issue? Yeah. You know, we're not taking things laying down. No. You know what I mean? And that just goes for everybody out there. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, there's a lot of people listening that maybe their life was way harder than ours. Mm-hmm. And there's some people that maybe it was easier. Maybe you had a better upbringing than we did. But regardless of any of that stuff, you can change your life. It just depends on what you have going on up here and what you decide to act on.
Right. Like you're one decision away from breaking free, right? Like just one decision away. And it's like, it's really just figuring out who you are and what it is that you want out of life. And if you're going to lay down and just let life happen to you, or are you going to stand up and do something about it? You know, because I mean, you and I, we still have challenges and struggles that we go through, and we still have our inner demons. You know, we still have things that we are unaware of that need healing. And a lot of times when those things come up, if I'm starting to feel insecure, which we could talk about that on our next podcast, or if I'm starting to feel a bit, you know, like there's jealousy or anxiety or hate or any of that, it's like, and I know that it's not normal for me, I start to take time to self-reflect and really dig deep to find out, where is this coming from? Where is this stemming from? You know, and if it's something that's beyond me, I am not too prideful to pick up the phone and ask for help. Whether
or say
it's
through
a therapist or it's like, you know, it's just really learning and digesting and willing to dig deep to find out where this is coming from.
Yeah. But no matter what, it's all about what you have going on up here. You know, that positive mentality. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't have that, get it. I mean, I don't know. I think I've heard that before, right?
Right.
If you don't have it, get it.
Right.
Figure out, because that the mindset has to shift.
Right.
And once it does, things get better, because you're just looking, like, I mean, even when me and you talk, like sometimes, like you'll say, I'll say you're way more positive than I am, but it's not like I'm a fucking Debbie Downer. You know, I talk about some shit the way it is, but then it's also like, what can we do? Where's the bright side to this? How can we solve these issues? Right. You know, and I think that's a progress attitude.
Yeah. And it's a balance. It's a dance. You know what I'm saying? It's a dance. It's a balance. It's, you know, when you're looking at, you know, the dark side, then I bring the light.
Right.
And there's times where I'm looking at the dark side and you bring the light. But with the next episode, we will get into, you know, some of the things that we really struggled with as a couple, as a, you know, being, and how we were able to overcome those things, and some of the things that we're going through today, and how we've been able to bring light to what it is that we're bringing through, you know, bringing to,
some of these things that we're talking about.
Yes. You know, but it's, and I think, you know, with our podcast, and, you know, the reason why we do what we do is because we want you guys to really get an insight of what we've been through and what we've been able to accomplish, in the hopes of saving a marriage, saving a relationship. And, you know, at the end of our podcast, you always hear us say, we get better together. And that's what it is. It's just sharing our life with you all in hopes that we will help
our successes, our mistakes, all of that.
All of it. So.
Yeah. So, and with that, thank you guys for being with us. Make sure you guys go to oppositesattractpodcast.com. You guys can share it with your friends and your family, like we said before. You guys can subscribe to the show there. And
that's it. Thank you guys for your love. Thank you for your support. And thank you for watching Opposites Attract Podcast,
where we get better
together.
Bye.